Hey guys, this is Evan and
Josh.
sorry about the video earlier. We have some issues right now with our internet. It's going up and down, so sorry about that, guys. But we are going to be talking about animal welfare and rights, and a lot of people have these misconceptions of what is animal welfare and what is animal rights. So Josh, can you explain to everyone what is actual animal welfare compared to rights? Because I always think about animal welfare as being how we treat them.
Yes.
And how we treat these animals while they're living. And rights actually puts, things upon them, like they have a right to live. They have a right to this,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So, what is animal rights to you?
I mean, to me, it's their right to have a happy life, a healthy life, to live their full lives, which, as we know, most have the capacity to live much, much longer than most farm animals live in the U.S. So, since we know 98% of the animals killed in the U.S. each year are traditional farm animals, animals who are considered farm animals. Only 2% of the animals killed in the U.S. every year are considered domesticated animals like your cats and dogs.
Yeah, and what we're going to talk about today, especially with the video that we want to show you guys, is whenever we think about animal welfare and how we treat these animals, we also have to look at their inherent rights as beings. Like, they don't deserve to be treated like crap, right? I mean, right. They deserve to be treated like everybody else. Nobody needs to be, tortured or anything like that. We're trying to explain that in a way that I think this organization does in an extremely amazing way, right?
Yes.
I mean, we love the Humane League. If you guys don't know the Humane League, definitely check them out. I'll put the link to their website on the description, and you can definitely check them out. But Josh, how long have we known them? It's been a while.
Oh, gosh, yeah, years. We were living in Charlotte, and I think just went to an event that they had in Charlotte, and then met who was then the director of the Charlotte area, Andrea, who now, gosh, I don't know.
She's the VP.
She's the VP, yeah, the vice president of the Humane League now. Then Maddie had taken over when she left. Maddie is now, oh my gosh.
Grassroots.
It's education, I think.
It's education, oh yeah.
It's education related, I know.
Yep.
And then Kelsey took over after that. But just getting to know them personally and their mission, and really learning a lot about the Humane League. And they were really one of the few that I always 100% felt comfortable supporting because of how they framed things, how they fought for animals. And, a lot of their efforts were, okay, if we can't end factory farming today, what can we do to improve the lives of the animals who are having to go through factory farming?
Yep.
And so a lot of their work involved pushing and lobbying for companies like McDonald's and Starbucks and others to stop using eggs from caged hens, to stop using pork products basically from pigs who were kept in gestation crates.
Yeah.
And so what that does is when companies stop buying from those, that's decreasing the demand for the animals as products and increasing the demand for factory farms to start practicing safer and more humane practices.
Yeah, and it's almost like, for us, it's almost like a ladder. I mean, it's like, at each point of this journey, we're looking at, okay, how can we make the lives of the animals that we're rescuing better, number one. Number two, how can we make it better for the ones that we can't rescue? And so even if we cannot change the system as a whole, like right now, even though we want to, what can we do to affect their lives in an immediate fashion so that the suffering decreases and it stinks because we're talking about torture, really.
Yes.
And trying to decrease that level so they're not in constant pain. So,
and then a big portion of their work is educating people and educating the public on what animals go through in factory farms, on the benefits of a cruelty-free life, whether it be what you eat, wear, use for entertainment, everything.
Yeah.
So it's such a nice multi-pronged approach that they take, and it's shown results.
Yeah.
It's shown some amazing results. So every year when we go to any of their events and they go through the things that that they have been able to push through and win, and people who have come to them and realized, yes, I need to take animals off my plate, for example. It's pretty amazing to see the numbers and the difference they're making in the world. And I think we learned of them pretty much right after they started. So, I mean, it has been, their growth has been phenomenal. Their footprint in the animal rights community has been phenomenal. They have been named like the top animal rights charity for multiple years in a row.
Yep.
And, they have great leadership, and they do amazing work.
They do. And
they've been, they've been out to Cotton Branch and visited and volunteered and helped out, and they met the animals. And I know Maddie would bring, interns who were working with her to come to Cotton Branch to be able to connect with animals that they, yes, they may want to fight for animals, but they've never met a farm animal. They've never seen an animal in surroundings where they can live their life freely. So they were able to come out and visit and spend time with the animals and volunteer. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. Unfortunately, it's somewhat of a controversy now when it shouldn't be. We're talking about diseases that come from animals, zoonotic diseases. And the Humane League made a really great video about that, how it relates to the animals that me and Josh rescue. I mean, me and Josh rescue a lot of pigs. Sometimes they're farm pigs, a lot of times they're potbelly pigs. Sometimes we rescue cows, sometimes we rescue chickens. It's talking about those animals and how it relates to the pandemic. And so I hope you guys enjoy the video. It's not that long. So I will go ahead and...
Very good synopsis.
Very good synopsis.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and start it now.
This is such a high risk. We see people saying, oh, we mustn't have these wet markets. Yeah, you're right, but we also mustn't have factory farming. I'm Vicky Bond, I'm the Managing Director for the Humane League in the UK, and I'm a trained veterinarian. I also have a Master's in Environment Development and Policy, and I've been working in animal protection now for over 9 years. A zoonotic disease is a disease that can transmit from animals to humans, and that doesn't have to be necessarily a bacteria, in the case of E. coli and Salmonella, which we might know of in food poisoning cases, but it's also viruses, such as obviously the COVID-19 virus, but bird flu we're very familiar with, swine flu. These are very familiar viruses that are zoonotic diseases. And in fact, 3 out of 4 infectious diseases come originally from animals. So wet markets are a prime location for zoonotic diseases to happen in terms of be spread. That's because you often have different animals stacked up in cages next to each other, but the real risk is the chickens and the pigs and the animals that are very prone to getting diseases and to catching. And so yes, wet markets are a problem, but factory farms are also a major problem, and that's because there are tens of thousands of animals all confined into these small spaces under stress, much more prone to catching disease in the first place, and they often get diseases like influenza, like the flu, so bird flu or swine flu, that is more easily contractable to humans than, say, other species that may get diseases that's less easy to be contracted. We know from recent influenza outbreaks that are happening in China right now from chickens that they have a mortality rate as high as 60%. And there are people saying this is probably a dress rehearsal for an influenza outbreak such as the avian influenza, the bird flu cases that we're seeing right now on factory farms. Those are the same factory farms that we have in the US. They're the same factory farms as we have here in Europe. That is not different, and that is not about bats. Factory farms are like a vat, and that's simply because you have vast numbers of animals. So we're talking of tens of thousands of animals in the case of chickens, or thousands in the case of pigs, in a confined space. They're under stress because they're in barren conditions, they're filthy, and it is the perfect place for disease to run rife. These animals also are all one breed. Their genotype is not very varied, and what that means is if one animal gets infected, it's very likely to affect all of them. And so you can get a disease that comes into the shed and infects all the shed, and then the worker will come in, become infected from the animals, leave the shed, of course, to go back to their family or whatever, and then spread that disease. We really have to stop factory farming. It is paramount in securing our future against these pandemics. I think now, while people have been talking about infectious diseases, zoonotic diseases being a risk, bird flu or swine flu, I think it's more obvious than ever. We also need to consider it. And finally, there's antibiotic resistance, which is something we should really be worried about. And we know that 700,000 people are dying every year from diseases that can't be treated by antibiotics anymore because they become resistant. And antibiotics are used widely in factory farms. We need to end factory farming, not just for the animals, but also to prevent the next pandemic.
All right, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed that video. It was, for me, it was very informative. It touched on a lot of things, especially factory farming. And the main reason why we brought this up today was, we have an amazing animal, amazing individual, and he is an individual. He has his own personality. He is very expressive, and he has a great story. And, Josh, let's talk to everybody about Odie and how Odie was the product of factory farming.
Right. So Odie is one of our large pigs. He's about 800 pounds. And Odie was actually born in a factory farm setting. And his mom, along with 250 other pigs in this particular, are they called CAFOs for pigs too, right?
Yep. Concentrated farm animal operations.
Yes. So 250 pigs inside that in gestation crates. And Odie was a baby. So there was a factory farm fire there. And someone happened along the scene as the firefighters were putting it out. Odie's mom, along with the other 250 animals in gestation crates, all perished in the fire. Odie was small enough, since he was a baby, he was able to escape somehow through a burn. And this person who came upon the scene saw him running around. He had severe burns and injuries all over his body and down his back. Still has the severe scars from that. But she picked him up and she took him home and she nursed him back to health, and he came to live with us at Cotton Branch. And yeah, he's one of the most amazing creatures you would ever meet. The most expressive eyes.
He's amazing.
He's loving. He, their capacity to love is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like the studies have shown that they have a intuition and the brain capacity of a 3-year-old child. Yeah. And so whenever we're talking about these factory farming operations, we're putting this incredibly intelligent animal into a very, very small, you can't turn around type of situation, gestation crate for the moms. And, they stay there for the majority of their life, just birthing over and over and over again. And so when you're thinking about how intelligent they are, and when I look at Odie and how intelligent he is, I couldn't imagine putting him in this for all of his life, not able to sniff the ground, root, experience life like you should, I mean, that kind of goes back into animal rights. They should be able to live the life that they're supposed to live.
Right.
They don't need to be in cages. They don't need to be cooped up like this.
Right.
There's a better way.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you think about pigs, and when you think about that, they have the intelligence level and mentality of a 3-year-old human. Imagine locking a 3-year-old human into a cage where they can't turn around or move. And I mean, it literally drives the pigs. It literally leads them to insanity.
Yeah.
In addition to, as you heard about in the video, the different diseases and infections that brings about, being in such confined spaces that are not cleaned.
I mean, their immune system is completely lowered, and so in the slightest disease can enter their body very quickly.
And they can be, what was it? One of our friends who's an immunologist had said, they're basically, in a situation like that, they are like the perfect petri dish, basically. Yeah. When you have the stress levels and the uncleanliness, for pigs to pick that up, and then being that, they use pig heart valves in humans, so there's a lot of closeness between human and pig anatomy internally, and I think that has a lot to do with how easily, when they're in these situations like the wet markets and the factory farming, that we see things like the swine flu where it can easily jump species.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that goes the same with chickens, the confinement and just the amount of animals, as you could see some in the video, who are crammed into these areas. It may be a large building, but you've got tens upon thousands crammed in there, and the conditions are filthy. This is what has led to the huge use of antibiotics in these animals, which is then leading to antibiotic-resistant strains of different diseases that are not, where the antibiotics aren't working in humans anymore either in some of these.
Yeah, and I think that the conditions are crazy because, especially with chickens have a rough life. Their beaks are debeaked.
They're debeaked to keep from pecking each other.
Yeah, because they're so close in proximity to each other. Chickens like to run around, assert dominance sometimes. Sometimes they like to have fights, but the industry knows, we want to have this amount of chickens in this space. They know that, we're going to have to debeak them so they won't injure themselves, and so there's not infection. So, you would...
And there still is infection, but
still is infection.
They're trying to cut down that rate by debeaking.
Yeah, it is rough, guys. And the reason that we wanted to bring this up is all of us are stuck in our houses, and when we go out, we're wearing masks, and we're really living a lot of isolation. And I think we need to think about the isolation that these animals live in constantly, every single day of their life. They are in worse conditions than we would ever think of that we would be in. So, I think that's what I'm taking from that video as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to lift it up a little bit. We know we're talking some really heavy stuff, but we're doing two things tonight. First, we're going to talk about our custom T-shirt that we have with Vegan Beacon, veganbeacon.org. I'll go ahead and show that with you guys right now. Do you like that?
I love this shirt.
I love it.
Yeah.
And John from Vegan Beacon was collaborating with us with this, and one of our board members did the actual the pig and the dog face, and then they kind of put it all together. Yeah. So I think it looks great. There will be a link in the description there as well. But also at 6 p.m. Eastern, that's basically an hour away. Definitely check out our auction for the animals. We have two great items that we're going to auction off that will benefit Cotton Branch and the work that we do here. I did provide a lot of information on the past few posts there, so definitely check it out. Hey Candace, hi Mike, hey Ron Lee, thank y'all for joining. Anything else you want to talk about, add to that?
I think so.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll see you guys at 6 p.m. We hope y'all enjoyed this. Talk to you later. Bye y'all.
Bye.